You are now watching The Meech.
There has been a ton of discussion, rumors, and quote-unquote news about the Nintendo Switch 2. You see it all over YouTube, you see countless articles about it, and surprisingly, I haven't done a video about the Nintendo Switch 2. That is, until now. And I am joined by my good pal T&D, also known as some guy who clearly doesn't like Nintendo, also known as some guy who clearly doesn't like the Rabbids or Yellow Toad, for something a bit different. Rather than making the usual rumor video claiming big news when in reality there's nothing except for Arzest music in the background, we're going to be doing a debate, because we always have this debate and discussion constantly. It's about the Switch 2, whether it's going to release this year, and we're very confident in our stances when it comes to when the Switch 2 is going to release.
Yes, indeed, and I think that'll make us rivals for this video because I think it's coming out this year, and you don't.
Well, I think an actual rival would be someone like Shawnee Boy. You know, there was a guy in 4th grade who, I forgot my money for pizza, it was $2 on Friday, we'd use that to fund a field trip, and I asked, could I borrow $2, Sean? He's like, yeah, but I'm gonna charge you interest. Well, what's interest? Oh, it means that you can borrow $2, but I'm gonna charge you for it. Wow, some friend right there. And I just said, no, I'm not doing that. That's a scam. And when in reality, he was by far the tubbiest kid in the class, so I really should have just said, you really need 3 slices and just left it at that. But anyways, this is going to be a fun discussion. I can already tell about that. Speaking of tell, tell. Billy and Sean, rivals. Now that's a rival. I think we're friendly rivals. We're like Mario and Wario. Or maybe Mario and Donkey Kong.
I was going to say Mario and Sonic at this point.
I don't feel like going to the Olympics. Unless they're in Athens again. But when it comes to the Switch 2, you've probably seen all the rumor videos. If you haven't watched them, you've definitely seen the thumbnails and such. And I will admit, there are some rumor channels that I do like. I'm a fan of Nintendo Prime, his channel is great, but just a lot of the other videos about the Switch 2, it annoys the hell out of me. Because I feel with the Nintendo Switch, this year has just gotten started. And we're already getting a pretty great lineup of games. So, to see just all the talk about the Switch 2, when there is literally almost nothing confirmed about it, next to nothing actually, it just gets exhausting, and it just feels like 2016 all over again. You remember with the Switch, how were the NX rumors? That's what it was called, codename NX?
Yeah, I remember. I remember well because we used to cover the rumors.
We did, but there was actually quite a difference between the NX rumors and what's going on with the Switch 2. But how are you feeling about all the rumor videos? Because I know you tend to enjoy them, and you love to listen to Zippo as word of gospel.
No, actually I hate Zippo with a burning passion. But
okay, that was a joke.
I think Zippo's an ass. Especially, I don't know, some of the way he talks and some of his posts are just kind of
arrogant.
Arrogant. Yeah, I can't remember what the post was that I showed you, but
I think it was about Everybody 1-2 Switch, where he said, "I warned you guys about it. If you buy the game, 2-2 on you." But
oh yeah, that's right. So I've been a little bit more on top of the rumors than Demeech has. I listen to Spawn Wave and occasionally Nintendo Prime. RGT, even though he's a sellout, listen to him too.
Hey, what I like about RGT85 is he's always up front. You know you're gonna get something blunt from him, even if you disagree. Like, he'll just say it how it is. I'm a fan. I don't really watch Spawn Wave that much, but I like him too. Another one is Review Tech USA, although when he covers the rumors, they tend just not to be accurate.
Yeah, I do like watching Rich's videos. He's funny, and he says it how it is. Even if the rumor isn't true, he always says take it with a grain of salt.
I mean,
It
the
is a
thing with
rumor.
Richie is
Yeah.
that I'll watch him for just Richie and the Birds, even if he's talking about a rumor that has zero credibility whatsoever. But the point I'm trying to get across is that so many of these rumors just have zero credibility to them, and I don't know why people give them the time of day, because essentially what is going on is with these so-called insiders and rumors, it's just someone who just guesses something, and if they get a guess right, bam! Credible insider. We've made so many jokes about it on the channel, and there are only
like,
two of them you should listen to. Oh, Mr. Slaw, Metroid Prime Remastered. Hey, you know what? He was right! He was right about Metroid Prime Remastered. He was right! I remember when the February Direct aired, that's literally what I called you to say. It didn't matter that they revealed Game Boy Advance for Switch Online. What did I say to you the moment the Direct ended?
He was right! But I'm actually feeling confident that this is the year that we're getting Switch 2. I'll go into some details as to why I think it's time. Even though we haven't had a February Direct this year, I don't think we're gonna get as big of a blowout as we did last year.
I mean, to
The
be
reason I
fair,
say
that February Direct wasn't exactly a blowout. That was the June Direct.
That's what I'm saying. I don't have. I think this thing is going to get revealed in March. I think I'm pretty confident in that. There are credible sources like Video Games Chronicle that have said that devs did have a dev kit last year, and they did show off the console behind the scenes last year. Does that mean it's coming this year? Not necessarily, but the fact that it was last summer leads me to believe that it could, the likelihood of it being this year, be possible. Now, with that being said, the games that we do have this year, to maybe the hardcore audience, yeah, they're a big deal. Paper Mario's coming back in a big way. It's going back to its roots and its remake, The Thousand Year Door. We're also getting something else that's going back to its roots, Mario vs. Donkey Kong, which is great. And then we have Princess Peach Showtime, which is a bit of a smaller title, but Peach is back in the spotlight again. But with that being said, there aren't really any big main titles right now to look forward to. It's a lot of remakes, it's a lot of remasters. The only new game that we have is Princess Peach Showtime. Okay? And that's technically, I would kind of call that a new IP because it really doesn't have any connection to Super Princess Peach.
I would say so too. It doesn't feel like a sequel to it.
Yeah. So with that being said, this does remind me a lot of the final years of the 3DS. And before you jump in and say no, it's different, let me explain something to you. 2016. Let's compare 2016 to 2023. Real quick, okay? I will say we did have a big game in 2016, which was Kirby Planet Robobot, which is your favorite Kirby game, at least as far as I know right now. 2D wise, yes.
My favorite's Kirby in the Forgotten Land.
Right. So in 2016, things were starting to slow down, Not a lot of games were being developed. There were still games like Kirby Planet Robobot and stuff like that, but
and of course,
things
Pokemon
were slowing down.
And Mario Party Star Rush.
Of course. Oh yeah, Star Rush. What a great game.
Surprisingly, it's one of the few good ones out of the experimental ND Cube games. Yeah, a great platform though for a party game. Oh wait, that's the following year. Mario Party the Top 100.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say that. So we had some smaller titles like Mario Party the Top 100, and then we had some remakes like Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga plus Bowser's Minions. We had the Luigi's Mansion 3DS remake as well. It was a lot of remakes, it was a lot of ports, it was a lot of remasters, a lot of smaller titles on the side. To me, 2024 kind of feels like that right now. Maybe not so much 2016, but a little bit more 2017 in terms of
the final years of the 3DS.
Right, and I think a lot of the time when you and I are discussing this, you're telling me, why would Nintendo just abandon the Switch like that? they're not going to abandon the Switch. The reason I know this is because of what happened with the 3DS. They didn't really abandon the 3DS right away. They actually, I remember you and I talking to each other. We were like, why are they announcing a Mario and Luigi remake when they could just be putting this on the Switch? This makes no sense.
Outside
And they
of
did it
WarioWare
anyways.
Gold, none of those games belonged on the 3DS. Luigi's Mansion
Exactly.
on the 3DS, Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga, Metroid Prime, or not Metroid Prime. He was right. Metroid Return of Samus. Samus Returns.
It was odd. It was really odd. But I will say that I feel like the reason that they do this is because, you know, the hardcore audience that Nintendo caters towards, we're going to be the first ones to get the new console, right? No doubt about it. We're going to be the first ones to get the new games, to get the new consoles, whatever. The casuals are going to take a little bit to get there, okay? It's always the case. So, does it make more sense to just abandon ship everything? Or does it make sense to just release the remaining amount of games that you have left for an audience that you still basically have? I mean, you don't have to force them to move on to the next console for maybe another year or so. Make the transition gradual. And this is something Nintendo does all the time. You know, for a while, DS games were still selling when the 3DS was still around. I actually had my uncle buy a new DS at the time instead of a 3DS because it was super cheap and there were a bunch of games on sale instead of a 3DS. Eventually they got a 3DS, but they were more casual. His family was more casual in that sense. So I do think that in that regard, you know, Switch games will still be they will still be getting support for at least another year or so, but after a while it will start to discontinue. But enough of me talking. I want to hear about what you have to say about this stuff.
Well, honestly, I was super tempted to interject because the 3DS argument, well, that's different. No, it's way more nuanced than that, because the thing is, the Nintendo Switch is not a normal situation for Nintendo, and it's not a normal console for them. And the 3DS situation was completely different, so with the points about this year being all remakes and Princess Peach Showtime, for now, that's all we know about it, but you tend to forget that there was 2018, which was literally just Smash Brothers, and the new games that released were pretty much either meh to just straight up garbage, like Kirby Star Allies, Mario Tennis Aces, Super Mario Party. I remember when you were so excited to get Super Mario Party, I'm like, I'm not getting that crap. But turns out you didn't like it that much either.
It looked like it was a return to form, but to rebut that statement, we're forgetting a very important element here. 2018, that was the second year the Switch was on the market. What year are we up to now, Demeech?
We're up to year 7.
Year 7. We are year 7 into the Nintendo Switch. Not just year 7 into the Switch, year 10 on Mario Kart 8. Give it up for year 10! Woo! Year 10, Mario Kart 8!
No. Don't remind me. I wanted Mario Kart 9 and all I got was puberty. But the thing is, okay, the Switch's second year on the market. The second year, I would say, is far more important than the 7th year. And let's take a look at those ports. What did they add? Funky Kong shining a surfboard with a banana peel? A few Mario Odyssey levels? Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition was the exception, but these remakes we're getting this year are not half-baked. These are essentially new games. Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door is completely overhauled, and you can tell a lot of time and care and passion was put into it. Mario vs. Donkey Kong as well. The only one that's a little bit iffy for now is Luigi's Mansion 2 HD. I still cringe saying 2 HD because we're in America. We should say Dark Moon. I feel like we should be eating biscuits and crumpets.
I agree that these remakes are, have a lot of high quality put into them. It's nowhere near Skyward Sword HD. However,
to clarify, he's talking about how it's half-assed.
Yeah. However, remakes do take less time to make than a brand new title. And
that is true.
That's not me saying that this isn't half-assed, because it's not. But it definitely takes less resources to create a remake like this, because they already have the blueprint. It's easier. I mean, sure, maybe they have to remake the whole game in a brand new engine, but the blueprint is there. With a brand new game, you have to kind of conceptualize, you have to test
Right.
if concepts work or not. My point is that these games are a little bit easier to make than new titles, and there's an overwhelming amount of remakes happening next year.
Yeah, but here's
Besides
the
the
thing.
Princess Peach game.
There are
Yeah.
two things I wanted to bring up. One regarding the 3DS situation, and the other just regarding the amount of remakes. So going back to 2018, I mean, I would say the second year matters far more with first impressions. I mean, in the long run, it didn't really do
Yeah.
much to impact the Switch's sales, considering it's Nintendo's best console. But, you know, I can see how it's different for the 7th year, but with the 3DS, why was a different situation? Well, you gotta keep in mind, why did the Switch release when it did? Because the Wii U was a flop. Nintendo needed a successor out. And after a failed console that had the same name and followed up the Wii, which at their time was the best-selling Nintendo console, that is a pretty bad situation, and Nintendo would want to be cautious. However, they did have the 3DS, which was a success, so it made sense to have smaller games released for it as a backup plan. Like, hey, if the Switch just completely crashes and burns, we're still supporting the 3DS, and if they wanted to, they could have just gone back to that. What ended up happening is the Switch ended up selling insanely well, and those 2 extra years of support for the 3DS were just like a backup plan. I will say it's very impressive how long the 3DS lasted. Everybody expected it to fail because of the rise of smartphones and mobile gaming, but no, 3DS sold pretty well. Not as well as the DS, not as well as the Game Boy Advance, but it did sell better than the NES. That's a fun fact. I think it sold around 70 million units.
You make a good point.
70 to 80 million.
However, I will say that this isn't Nintendo's first time still supporting a console when they have a new console coming out. They've done the same thing with the Wii. They've done the same thing with the GameCube. Famously with the GameCube.
Not
What
really,
game
though.
released? Yeah, they did. Did. What when the Wii U was releasing?
It cut
Or
out
actually
for a second,
beforehand.
but what? Twilight
ga-
Princess?
Twilight Princess, and then if we go back to the Wii, what games were still coming out on the Wii before the Wii U came out? It was smaller titles. It was still smaller titles, but there were still games being made for the Wii. At least for the first year or so. I mean, Just Dance, they made Wii versions for like how many years? 10
Up
years?
until 2019. Though I think the last Just Dance game for the Wii was Just Dance 2020. I actually have it, but no, the thing is, with Nintendo supporting consoles, there's another important thing to bring up. Yes, the 3DS was a very different situation, so that's why we got a lot of remakes. That was the backup plan. That's why we did get 3DS support for as long as we did, just in case the Switch failed. And another thing worth bringing up is that, first of all, the year has just started, and second of all, usually when there's a year where it's the end of an era for a console, it tends to be not good. Look at 2006 for the GameCube. We got Chibi Robo and Twilight Princess. 2012 for the Wii. Mario Party 9, the localization of Xenoblade Chronicles, and Rhythm Heaven Fever, which is an amazing game, but unfortunately, it's become extremely expensive, so you're gonna want to mod your Wii to play that one. And then the Wii U, that's the best example yet. Star Fox Zero, Paper Mario Color Splash. And the game of the year on the Wii U that year was Mario and Sonic at the 2016 Rio Olympic Games. So that's when you know things are getting pretty bad. Now, if it's been confirmed that this is the lineup for the Switch this year, then I would be inclined to agree with you, but here's what happened last year. We only knew about Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, which did get delayed from its initial 2022 release date, and Pikmin 4. And I was with you thinking that 2023 was going to be the final year for the Switch. But with Nintendo being Nintendo, they are known just to go completely left field. You can't really predict them. But when it comes to predicting what'll happen this year, we gotta see what the February Direct has. Oftentimes, Nintendo will have Directs that really don't show any new games, but then they'll pull something like the June 2023 Nintendo Direct, which revealed Super Mario Bros. Wonder, Princess Peach Showtime, WarioWare Move It, and more games than that. So, I would say this Direct would be a good opportunity to see maybe what's in store for the rest of the year. I do think that the Switch 2 will be happening soon, just based on the age, but I can't see it releasing this year at all.
Okay. Well, let me bring up one more other fact that you might have overlooked. 3D Mario. Let's talk about 3D Mario for a second. It's been 7 years since we've gotten a brand new 3D Mario. This is the longest we've gone without a 3D Mario since the gap between 64 and Sunshine. I just want you to let that settle in for a second, okay? At this point, if we were to get a sequel to Odyssey, I think you could agree with me, we would have gotten it way sooner already. It would have came out sooner. And I think you and I both know why.
However, I don't think it's going to be this year. I don't think we're getting the next 3D Mario this year. I think we're getting it with the next console, which will not be releasing this year.
Well, let me continue. We got Bowser's Fury as, I'm assuming, a holdover for the next 3D Mario. Now, besides the exception of the Galaxy games, which were sequels to each other and did not take a lot of Galaxy 2 did not take as much development time as Galaxy 1. Why? They reused the same assets, the same engine, everything to make the sequel to the game. So, besides those two, 3D Mario really only has one game per console, besides what happened with Galaxy. And 3D Mario shows up what the new system is capable of power-wise, performance-wise, and capability-wise. 7 years is a long time to go without a new 3D Mario. I think this is a year where we're going to see it. I think 8 years would be way too long for a new 3D Mario.
You know what's even longer?
Mario Kart?
10 years for Mario Kart, 10 years for Donkey Kong. With the Switch, like I said, it wasn't a normal situation. The Wii U failed, 4 years later they had a new console, and that's why a lot of games were ports for it. So this is why just now things have started to pick up and we're finally getting games that we should have gotten long ago, like Super Mario Bros. Wonder and Pikmin 4.
But that's my thing too. Yeah.
The gaps don't matter so much anymore. Nintendo has gone with many long gaps between latest entries, and yeah, it doesn't matter how long 8 years is. I think the next 3D Mario will be with the Switch 2 or whatever the next console will be, but I just can't see it releasing this year, and I guess the main reason why I think that is because with Nintendo, I feel like they're just going to support the Switch as long as humanly possible. It's dirt cheap to produce, it's using hardware from 2015. Next year will be the final breaking point where, yeah, you pretty much have to upgrade. But I think Nintendo could hold out with one more year. And
here's my argument against that. You don't want your product to become so oversaturated to the point where consumers are disinterested in that product anymore. Why? Because you're kind of tarnishing your brand at that point. Nintendo already has a 22% sales decrease from the last time. I think from last holiday, actually. They've been selling less and less Switches, and this has nothing to do with the fact that they're doing badly. It's just that everybody has a Switch. They're not really profiting off of console sales anymore. Game sales, of course, they're selling, but console sales, not as much as they used to anymore. They've peaked already. When you peak and you're continuously going down, you're not gonna wait till you crash to start picking yourself up from the dirt. You're gonna try and come out with something to replace that, which will be the Switch 2. I don't think they're gonna wait another year. I think another year would be suicide, to be honest with you. I don't think they can wait another year. There's rumors of a PS5 Pro coming out. Not that that's any competition, but, Nintendo's never been a company about power.
Well, they
But
have in the past with consoles like the GameCube and the DS and the Nintendo 64, as well as the Super Nintendo,
well,
but nowadays I get what you mean.
not anymore, And the only reason I bring that up is because the main reason why I want to Switch 2 is because, there are games like Tears of the Kingdom that don't really run that well. They're great games, but Tears of the Kingdom struggles to even run at 30 frames at some points. The resolution is, I would say, what, 900p docked?
Oh, there's no
And
denying I
even,
do want to Switch 2, but
well, yeah, I mean, I was just going to say that, more power does equal new capabilities. And, the Switch hardware, we could kind of say it's sort of an Xbox 360, but, maybe a little bit more power. I mean, everybody's kind of ahead of the curve. The thing is, Nintendo has the opportunity right here to upgrade their system while other developers are essentially developing games for PS4 hardware because they're still making PS4 versions of new games. I mean, I don't know if you know that, but there's still PS4 and PS5 versions. PS4 isn't really going anywhere right now.
yeah, the thing is, Nintendo definitely needs to catch up when it comes to power because, yeah, they are lagging behind now. Back in 2017, it wasn't so much of a problem. Nowadays, yeah, we're in the year 2024, and I feel like, yeah, we're in need of something more powerful. If you think about it, the Switch is just slightly more powerful than the Wii U, so it does make sense. But
Yeah.
I guess the main point why I don't think the Switch 2 is coming this year and will likely come next year or later is because Nintendo has not confirmed anything about it. And this is
Why
where the
would they,
big
though?
difference. This is the big difference between the NX and the Switch 2 rumors. NX Switch, the original one, 2016. Why would they? Because investors need to know about it. If you're investing in Nintendo, you gotta know what the release schedule is and what their plans are going forward, and they'll often announce stuff like that in advance. And with the Switch, when that was revealed, it was 2015 under codename NX. Nintendo just flat up said, we're developing a new dedicated game platform in 2015. And yes,
Gee,
news was sparse.
yeah.
It was very sparse, that's why 2016 was so agonizing. But they would come out with reports saying things like, NX is coming in spring 2017, which they announced in spring of 2016, and that Breath of the Wild would be a cross-gen game for Wii U and NX, which became the Switch. So there was legitimate evidence about it, not to mention all the patents about it. But nowadays, it's just a bunch of garbage where people will say, oh, the Switch... It's no different than the Switch Pro stuff.
It's riskier now, though. You're forgetting about the time period that was in. The Wii U was failing. I don't know if you remember that E3 2015.
How could I forget?
That was the last E3 that we saw Mr. Iwata.
God
God
rest his
rest his
soul.
soul. But the reason I bring that up is because they had to tell investors they were coming out with a new console. Why? Because investors were not happy about the Wii U. They had to say something. They had to rush. I don't want to say rush, but that's essentially what they kind of did with the Switch. They had to push this new console out into the market so that they could put the Wii U behind them. They had to say something. Nowadays, when you have the Switch, a successful console right now, it's better to keep things closer to the chest because here's what I'll say. You have a success with the Switch. How are you going to keep that success and build on it? That's risky. Nintendo hasn't really been good with that recently. Okay, even the 3DS had a rocky start. They don't want to have a rocky start with this again. So I think they're keeping it very close to the chest until they're ready to give details about this. The Wii U was a completely different era. It was a completely different situation. They had to say something to get people's minds off of the Wii U. They had to say, "Oh, well, don't forget about the Wii U. We're making a new console, so it's okay. It's fine." They had to say that.
To be fair,
Because
Nintendo
if
did a
not,
lot of risky things back then, where they had the Nintendo mobile games and things like the NES Classic, so you do have
they
a
had
point
to.
there. But honestly, What would an extra year do that's harm for the Switch? Because I feel like it would be beneficial to Nintendo. They just push the Switch for one more year. In October, we could get a reveal of the Switch 2, and then it releases in March of next year.
I just think the hardware is too dated at this point.
What difference is it going to make if it's an extra year, though?
I just think there's a lot of talk around right now with, you know, Switch not being kind of up to snuff with modern consoles. You know, there's other besides first party games too, right? There's a lot of third party games people want to bring on the go. Sure, if you have a Steam Deck, you can do that, but not everyone has a Steam Deck. It's not really a casual consumer product.
Definitely more of a niche thing. Yeah, hardcore
right. It's more hardcore. So there is and I'm not saying that Switch doesn't have bad third party support. It has great third party support. However, there are certain games that aren't on the Switch because of its power, and you know it comes to a certain point where they're like I was saying before, they're still making PS4 and PS5 games. They're going to get to the point where they're just making PS5 games, okay? Nintendo needs to catch up with that before that happens so that they could get some exclusives that those consoles have gotten already onto their next successor of the system. Why? Because they know that their handheld model works, and they know if they could get more third-party games, more ambitious, powerful games that take up more, processing power and everything, they know if they could get that right away, they could keep the momentum going with the Switch, and they could still compete with Sony and Microsoft. Nintendo could say that they're not competing with Microsoft and Sony all they want, but they are. They're in the consoles race. They're competing against them.
I mean, you said the Switch or PS5 Pro wouldn't be a competitor to the Switch, or Switch 2.
Well, I mean, what do you mean by that?
Well, you were saying that it wouldn't be competition if they released the PS5 Pro this year.
Not initially. I mean, who's gonna have the money for that besides the hardcore? Even the PS4 Pro when that came out, eventually, a bunch of people got it, but at the time being, people are just now getting their hands on a PS5. I don't think it poses that much of a problem to the Switch right now, but I think we're at a point where technology needs to leap for Nintendo. And, I think last year was the last big hurrah. I think Mario Wonder was their way of saying, okay, let's get one last big push out of this with Mario Kart and a 2D Mario. And after that, let's crank this thing out. I really do think 7 years is a nice number for a console. I think 8 years is too long. Okay. And I think it's just time for an upgrade. It's time for a spec upgrade. We both want it to be backwards compatible, but at this point, I think Nintendo just needs to show not just the hardcore audience, but the general audience, hey, we're making a handheld that could support these AAA games too. Because there is a stigma around the Switch, and you and I both know this, that it doesn't look the best compared to the other consoles. Maybe Nintendo wants to avoid that before it gets worse, and I think it could get worse by the time 2025 arrives.
Well,
you don't want bad press for too long.
The thing is, I guess it really doesn't matter how long the gap is, unless it's like a year we're talking about. What I'm thinking is spring 2025, with the reveal probably happening this year. I could see a reveal, but I just can't see a release. But just another thing, and this doesn't have much to do with whether or not it gets revealed this year, is that I'm honestly content with the Switch for another year. I am. I think we're getting a solid lineup this year. Sure, some of the games aren't optimized the best, but outside of games like Pokemon and some third-party games, they're optimized well. And they look great still. Games like Super Mario Bros. Wonder, Super Mario RPG. Nintendo knows how to work with the hardware, and that's why you buy a Nintendo system for the most part. And we're getting some great games this year, and I think we're going to get a few more in February. And you know what? If this is the final year for the Switch, I'm fine with that.
I mean, here's my thing, right? I'm the opposite. I'm ready to move on, but I'm not letting that cloud my judgment. I do still think, besides, my bias, that it is coming this year, just with the fact that it's not just me who's thinking this. I think a lot of people are just kind of saying, okay, we want something a little bit, more demanding right now. Now is the time to do this. Also, what I forgot to mention before is where there's smoke, there's fire.
You know what I
What
have
do I
to say to
mean by
that?
this?
Where there's smoke, they pinch back. You know, whenever there's a lack of a Nintendo Direct for a while and you start to get desperate or anxious for a Direct? Well, it seems like a lot of people are feeling that way for the Switch too, but I'm just not, and I don't understand why there is such a demand for it. Like, it needs to be revealed now, and there's so many rumor videos about it when Nintendo hasn't confirmed anything, and that the Switch is looking just fine for another year. But before we wrap things up, what do you think it's going to be? Do you think it's going to be a full-on successor like the Switch was to the Wii U? Do you think it's going to be a Game Boy Color style upgrade where it's cross-compatible with the original Switch but also has new exclusives? Because I feel like they could do something like that for it. And I consider the Game Boy
No,
Color
I
to
don't
be
think
its own
so.
platform.
I don't think Game Boy Color. It sounds more like, from what you're saying, it sounds more like you're suggesting a Pro instead of like a brand new successor. My thing is, I think it's still going to keep the hybrid nature. I think they'd be stupid to do that. I think what they're going to do is keep the form factor and just improve on what the Switch already is. Higher specs, whatever that may be, better Joy Cons. I really hope that they have better Joy Cons for whatever this thing is. I do think there's going to be new features, new gimmicks or whatever. Honestly, at the end of the day, I just want a more powerful system so I could play, more ambitious games from Nintendo. Every time there's a power increase from Nintendo, even if it's not significant within the console race, it's significant with their first party games. So that's what I'm most excited about. I want to see that new 3D Mario game. What would that look like on new hardware, that
Well,
the
I think
Switch
that the
can't
Switch
provide?
2 is going to be 4K. I feel like 4K is absolutely doable now, considering that you can literally get 4K
I,
TVs for less than
it's
$300. I got mine that's 65 inches for
it's
$229.
it's
So it's a
either going to
common
be
thing now.
it's either going to be 4K or it's going to be close to 4K, because I could definitely see Nintendo saying, "Well, it's 4K, but it's 1440p actually," which I honestly I'd be fine with. But as long for me, it's more so performance. Um, I don't want my games running at 30 frames anymore. I think 60 should be the standard, or at least like a stable 30 frames. And I'm hoping that this generation that's coming up will provide that. And as much as we keep going back and forth on this, I think at the end of the day we do want this console to come.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
and the reason we say that is because, well, we want new games, obviously.
Here's the thing.
And
I just can't get
yeah,
excited for a new console until I see the new games, or if it's something
I
like the
get it.
Switch, where it was confirmed and we knew it wasn't going to be a successor to the Wii U. There was so much to speculate about. There were the patents. It was fun. It was a really fun time to speculate, albeit very anxious. You're getting antsy just waiting for the Switch to be revealed, but there was a lot of cool stuff. Remember the NX controller fake leak where a guy 3D printed a
Oh
fake
yeah,
controller with a screen on it? That's cool. That's creative. That's fun. It's not creative
yeah.
or fun when Zippo is just scarfing down Cheetos and saying, "Ah, there's gonna be a new Mario game." And then that's what gets the
Wow.
comic book and Kotaku article. And
You know
that's
what
what I just
annoys
can't
me?
stand about the Switch 2 rumors. They're
You
not
know what
fun or
annoys me
creative,
too?
and they
What
have no
annoys me
merit.
too is he probably there was a Kit and Krista episode where they were predicting what Switch 2 titles would be on it, and Kit predicted a Mario and Donkey Kong crossover game for the 3D Mario game. And literally a few days later, Zippo was like, "The next 3D Mario is going to have Donkey Kong in it." I was like, "Wow, where'd you get that from, genius?"
I learned it by watching you. No, but in all seriousness, with the Switch 2, I don't even think that you need to compare it to something like a Game Boy Color, because that's definitely up for debate whether it's its own platform like I see it, or if it's like a Switch Pro new
I'd
3DS DSi
say,
style revision. I think it might be like the
yeah,
Xbox Series X and PS5, where it does have the cross-gen games.
it's.
And I do think
I,
it's going to be backwards compatible. It'd be dumb for
I
it
do
not to
too.
be. But
Nintendo's very big on physical media. I think they're going to do that. I think it's going to be a big jump. I think it's going to be Game Boy to Game Boy Advance. I think that's how big of a jump it's going to be. Again, same idea, same maybe like different, uh, same form factor, but I think it's just going to be more refined. And you know, obviously it's Nintendo, so they're going to surprise us somehow. But I think it's going to be a good surprise.
yeah, I think so too, but you know what? Despite everything you've said, I am still confident that the Nintendo Switch 2 or successor will not release in 2024. I think it could be revealed, and that is not what the bet is going to be about, but I'm so confident that it will not release this year that I'm going to do a little bet. You know what? If the Switch 2 releases in 2025, you're gonna have to eat a delicacy known as Billy Dogs. Now, if you don't know what those are, Billy Dogs are hot dogs or Vienna sausages, whichever one you prefer. And then you also have a side ingredient, a mayonnaise. The way you prepare them, and you're gonna have to eat 5 of them in honor of 2025. The way you make them.
Okay.
And don't try this at home, guys, but this is the bet that T&D and I have. You're gonna have to eat these if the Switch 2 releases next year. Here's how you're gonna eat Billy Dogs. Where you make them, prepare them, and put them in a tub of mayonnaise. You gotta put the hot dogs or Vienna sausages in a tub of mayonnaise and soak them as if it were a brine. Leave out in the open at room temperature for a week. And then,
Oh my god.
what you can do is grill them afterwards, and you have to serve them in a Twinkie bun. So slather that schnitzel in mayonnaise like you do on your weenus.
All right. Well, I think it's going to be revealed in March or in April. We're going to have a full-on in-depth trailer for it in the summer, and I think it'll release in September. And if I'm right, you have to do the same thing, but you have to live stream yourself eating it. All 5 of them. All 5 Billy Dogs. That's right, and it has to be live. You can't do a Switch 2 reaction video or anything. As soon as the Switch 2 gets revealed, that's the video you're live streaming with. It's going to be Billy Dogs with Demeech.
Well, it would have to be Billy Dogs with T&D too. You think that's fair?
No, because you're the loser in that scenario.
Well, if you're the loser in my scenario, you're going to have to live stream Billy Dogs with T&D. You're going to have to eat
All
those
right.
Billy Dogs. All 5 of them.
Fair enough.
I will give you the
I will
grace,
do it.
and I hope you give me the grace too, where you can choose between hot dogs or Vienna sausages. Either one. Which one are you going
okay.
with?
I'll probably go with hot dogs. I can't stand Vienna sausages.
Vienna sausages are smaller, so it's less pain. But you know what?
But
You have a deal.
you have a deal too. We shall see. I do think we will get some sort of announcement in February with games. Like I think maybe, maybe a direct mini, to be honest with you. But, I do think March is going to be the month that we see the Switch 2. We shall see. We'll see who's right. If you see my live stream go up saying Billy Dogs with T&D, you know I lost. But if you see Demeech, that means I won.
You are on. And do not make Billy Dogs at home. This is just strictly
please.
for T&D and I.
Yeah, do not make this at home. You will get sick.
Very likely. Actually, not very likely. You will. So don't do it. You know what else you shouldn't do? Listen to rumors
What?
from Zippo.
What are you, the man in the freaking yellow hat?
Upside down. No, before we wrap things up, we had a conversation the other day. I got back from a phenomenal vacation, and I went to Animal Kingdom. And I was looking in the gorilla enclosure, and I talked to the zookeeper and said, "Oh, these gorillas look very docile. Can you keep one as a pet? Because I know you can't keep a chimpanzee as a pet because they're vicious and very dangerous, but the gorillas are super docile and look very friendly. And she was saying, no, you can't really keep them as a pet, and I was talking to you about it. And you said, what, are you the man in the yellow hat? We were laughing so hard that his back nearly broke.
Yeah, I don't know what the heck happened, but I just couldn't walk the next day. But yeah,
Don't
Switch
keep a
2.
gorilla as a pet either. Don't keep a chimpanzee as a pet. Stick to dogs and cats. And of course hamsters. Or guinea pigs.
Yeah.
Or frogs. But if you're
Switch
getting a dog,
2.
make sure it's not an ugly dog like a poodle.
Yeah, but Switch 2. We shall see who's right. Billy Dogs.
Loser has to eat billy dogs. But hey, do a good thing. Before you prepare them, get the hot dog juice and give it to your dog.
You should sing this while you're making it. Billy, 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 Billy.
I would just sing do 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 do
Oh,
do
that's
do.
it.
Yeah. Alright, Switch 2. You heard it from Demeech. Nintendo Switch 2 will be released in 2025. Not 2024.
Nope, it's gonna be in 2024.
All I can say to you, T&D, is enjoy your Mario and Sonic at the Paris 2024 Olympic Games.
Alright. I see how it is. Enjoy your Pokemon poop and pee.
Don't remind me. Well, anyways, guys, thanks for watching and keep calm and dot it on. 2025!
2024.